Ladies and gentlemen, I wish you a very good morning. This is February the 28th. The time right now is 12:06 a.m. So this is a new day. It's the weekend, and I'm glad to be here starting a live stream. So I hope that a lot of our friends will be joining us. I hope that we will have a great discussion, something that I always encourage. I always encourage you to share your thoughts and comments and opinions in the live chat window, which is open. So you can write your thoughts. And also, please make sure that you are subscribing if you have not done so yet. Subscribe to the channel, like this video, share this video, because it helps us reach more people and grow the size of our community. So I see some of our friends are already joining. I can see Z over here. I can see K Cooper. And I'm hoping that more and more of our friends will join and we will find new friends also. So please share this video. Okay. So my friends, there's so much to discuss today. I mean, so many different things happening, so many topics. And I had real difficulty figuring out what to discuss because there's so much going on in the world. Okay. We are seeing rising tension in the Middle East. Now, if we start talking about that, we will be here for hours. Okay, we will be here for hours. I mean, easily, if I start talking about the Middle East, we could be here easily for 3 hours. Or, as long as there's battery, there's charge on my phone, we could be here. We could just continue having a conversation about everything that's going on in the Middle East, looking at the history, looking at the current situation and circumstances, looking at U.S. America's position, U.S. position, discussing the diplomatic efforts, discussing the security, aspect, national security, global security. I mean, we can spend so much time here talking about the Middle East, but that's not what I'm gonna do today. That's not what I'm gonna do. Okay, so I'm doing this live stream not to talk about the Middle East situation. That might be a topic for a different day. So what else is going on? There's war between Pakistan and Afghanistan. That's a very serious situation. For anyone who has not been paying attention, okay, this would be a reminder to do some research and to look at what's going on. It is a very, very serious situation. When I say serious, I am not exaggerating. It is extremely serious. So look at the Pakistan Afghanistan situation right now, but that's not what we're going to talk about today. The reactions are still pouring in following President Trump's State of the Union speech. There are still many people commenting, sharing their thoughts, sharing their appreciation, opposition, depending on who you're talking to, who you're listening to. I mean, so we can talk about that again. People's reaction to President Trump's State of the Union speech. And also, it became very clear, okay, after the speech was over, it became very clear, even during the speech, it became very clear that the Democrats prioritize illegal aliens over US citizens. Very, very obvious. The Democrats, they are not focusing on US citizens. They are not focusing on helping Americans. The Democrats are focusing on prioritizing the illegal aliens. Okay. There are questions about who the Democrat presidential nominee might be for 2028. There are different names floating, different um, political experts will give you different predictions. We don't know what's going to happen. So that's something we can talk about, but not today. Not today. There are questions about who the Republican presidential nominee might be in 2028. Okay? Lots of anticipation, lots of different guesses being made. Some people saying, oh, it's going to be JD Vance. Some people say, oh, it's going to be Marco Rubio. Some people say, oh, it's going to be somebody else. Um, we don't know. We don't know. And then there are others. There are many friends, including many here on this channel, friends who are saying, hey, Trump 2028, Trump 2028. I'm hearing that a lot. And I know you are as well. You're hearing that. Trump 2028. I love it when people say that. But you know what? I don't know. I'm not a constitutional lawyer. I'm not a constitutional lawyer. I don't have a law degree. I've probably said that a million times already. I don't have a law degree. I have worked very closely with lawyers. I have done research and writing on legal issues, legal matters, statutes and rules and laws. So I've done that, but I don't have a law degree. I'm not a constitutional lawyer, so I'm not going to be able to give you the analysis of whether or not President Trump can run again. Okay? I'll leave that for the constitutional lawyers to figure out, to discuss. But I just, as a human being, as a strong Trump supporter, I love it when I hear Trump 2028. Okay. Anyway, any lawyer here, maybe you can comment on this. If there are lawyers over here, if you got experts, if you are a lawyer, you got a law degree from an elite school. Okay, define an elite school however you want. And if you think you're an expert on the US Constitution, you know what's going on, you've done legal research, you've read books, you've followed different court cases, you're an expert. Hey, maybe you can answer if President Trump can run again for president or not. Like, can Trump 2028 be real or not? Okay, you can figure that out. Anyway, then what else can we talk about? What else is going on? There's news about China's efforts to expand its influence around the world, to expand and to try to influence more and more and more. And we can talk about that, but that's not for today. That's for a future episode, hopefully. What else can we talk about? The war between Ukraine and Russia continues. I have probably talked about this. Out of all the international issues, maybe this has been the issue that I've discussed the most. Okay. Maybe this one and US-Canada trade. But that war continues. War between Ukraine and Russia. Also, there are news about the Clintons. Have you seen that? There are news about the Clintons. Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton. Okay. That's something people are talking about, but we're not going to be discussing that for this live stream. And then there's new poll regarding the 2026 elections in Wisconsin, the Supreme Court race, the Supreme Court election that's coming up in April in Wisconsin, and then the gubernatorial race that's coming up in November. So there's new poll out there, new poll results, which we can discuss, but in a future episode, not today. Then JD Vance visited Wisconsin. You probably know that. The vice president visited Wisconsin. So that's a big highlight. That's news people are talking about. And then the celebration continues following U.S. team's major victory in the Olympics. So that's big news. People are discussing. So there's so much going on. There's so much to talk about, and that's why I say that when I thought about doing this live stream, I was sitting and looking at the list, and I'm thinking, and I came up with this list. All right, what are the top issues? And I said to myself, which one am I going to talk about? Am I going to talk about Middle East? Am I going to talk about Pakistan, Afghanistan? Am I going to talk about President Trump's State of the Union speech, which I have already discussed? Maybe there's more to discuss. Am I going to talk about the Democrat presidential nominee for 2028, the Republican presidential nominee for 2028? China, Ukraine, Russia, Clinton's, Wisconsin polls, JD Vance's visit. I mean, U.S. team, and there's a lot more. So it was hard to decide what topic should be the topic of the day. Well, my friends, let me tell you, there's something very interesting that happened, which I wish to talk about. I'm going to talk about the meeting between Donald Trump and Zoran Mamdani. Donald Trump, the US president, the 45th president, the 47th president, the commander in chief, the winner of the Electoral College votes, the winner of the popular votes, Donald Trump. And then there's Zoran Mamdani, the mayor of New York, the millennial mayor of New York City. And Trump and Mamdani had a meeting. Zoran Mamdani visited the White House again to meet with President Donald J. Trump. And this happened just this week. All right? I mean, we're already into the weekend, but it happened during the week. There really was no detailed information prior to the meeting. I just saw a news source that claimed that Mamdani would meet with President Trump again. And then the meeting happened. Now, I didn't see any news conference, unless there was one and I just missed it. Okay, could be. I've had a super busy week. Let me tell you, this week I was extremely busy, which is why I even had to skip live streaming. Okay, I mean, I try to live stream every day, and whenever I miss a day or two or three or a week, you gotta know that I'm extremely busy, or maybe I'm sick, right? But I'm not sick. I'm doing okay. All right. I had like over the holiday season, I was pretty sick because of viral illnesses and all that. But I'm doing fine now. So whenever I skip a live stream, I'm either traveling or I'm busy or I've got some other commitment. So I just saw from the news that Mamdani would meet with Trump again. And the meeting happened. I didn't see any news conference. I'm not sure if there was one. It was probably just a closed door meeting, and that's okay. Maybe the only people in President, maybe only the people in President Trump's inner circle and Mayor Mamdani's inner circle knows about what exactly happened during the meeting. But Mayor Mamdani, Zoran Mamdani, posted on X, he posted a photo with President Trump, and President Trump sitting in the Oval Office and Mayor Mamdani standing next to him. That was the photo. And Zoran Mamdani wrote, and I quote, "I had a productive meeting with President Trump this afternoon. I'm looking forward to building more housing in New York City," unquote. This is interesting. This is very interesting. So the emphasis is on housing. The focus is on housing. So it has become quite clear that Mayor Zoran Mamdani was in the White House to talk about housing, to discuss housing issues with President Trump. My friends, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. On this channel, and you know this. Listen, I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to ask you, and you can respond. On this channel, you know, you have seen, you have heard how strongly I criticized Zoran Mamdani. I spent a lot of time on this channel during live streams. I spent a lot of time criticizing Zoran Mamdani for his socialist, communist views. I criticized him because of his political ideology. I criticized Zoran Mamdani because of the people that he's associated with, like Bernie Sanders, a socialist, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a socialist. So if Mamdani's strongest political allies are Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, that's not good. That means Mamdani is very strongly holding on to his socialist viewpoint. So I spent a lot of time criticizing Zoran Mamdani on this channel prior to the mayoral election, which took place last year. I spoke about the New York City mayoral race, and I talked about the various candidates, okay? Like Zoran Mamdani, like Curtis Sliwa, like Andrew Cuomo, and I shared my analysis with you on this channel. I talked about Zoran Mamdani's plan to have government-run grocery stores, which I still believe is an absolutely bad idea. Government-run grocery stores will never work. It will never be successful. And when I saw that on Zoran Mamdani's, like his list of priorities, government-run grocery stores, I criticized his ideas, and I criticized his ideas very, very strongly because I do not support government-run grocery stores. Anyway, I won't say much more about this because I've talked about this in great details previously. So what you can do is go and look at my previous live stream, do a keyword search, look for my videos on Zoran Mamdani, and you will find my videos, and you can listen to what I've said previously. So in short, I have heavily criticized Zoran Mamdani. But my friends, there's one thing that you must keep in mind. There's one thing that I want you to know and to remember. I criticize policies. I criticize, poor ideas. I criticize people's actions. If those actions are not helping our economy or our civilization, if people's actions are leading to loss, if people's actions are leading to poor governance, if people's actions are leading to a situation in which there's lack of justice, then I criticize those actions. I criticize poor policies. I criticize poor ideas. I do not criticize people just for the sake of criticizing. You have to know this. You have to recognize this. I don't criticize someone just because I feel like criticizing that person. No, no. If there is no reason to criticize someone, I will not criticize that person. Okay? It's about looking at policies, ideas, and actions and being critical of poor policies, flawed ideas, and poor actions. I only criticize people if I think that their ideas and actions and policy proposals are flawed. I don't criticize someone just because I feel like criticizing that person. No, that is wrong. That should never be done. My friends, think about this. When you look at the Democrats, when you look at the Democrat politicians, like, you look at AOC, okay? You look at Pramila Jayapal, you look at like Eric Swalwell, you look at, other politicians that are there. I'm not going to go through the whole list, but you look at these far left politicians, these Democrats, what do you see? You will find that many of them criticize Donald Trump just because they don't like Trump, just because they feel like spending their time criticizing Trump, they criticize him. So no matter how much good, no matter how much good things President Trump does, no matter how much of great decisions President Trump makes, there are these far left Democrats who will keep saying bad things about Trump. They will try to impeach President Trump. They will try to create barriers for President Trump's policy agenda. They will say negative things about President Trump on social media, on mainstream media, just because they don't like Trump. So no matter what he does, they will criticize it. If he does something great, which he does, President Trump, he does do a lot of great things, a lot of great things, and he never gets credit from these far left Democrats. These far left Democrats, they never publicly say, okay, you know, President Trump has done this thing, which is great. He has done this thing, which is going to be very helpful for the people. He has made this decision, which is going to improve the lives of people. Even when these far left Democrats know that Donald Trump is doing great things, they refuse to acknowledge those actions. They refuse to acknowledge those accomplishments of President Trump's. They refuse to recognize the achievements of the Trump administration. It's not about policies, it's not about ideas. They don't like Trump, and that's the main thing. So whatever he does, these far left Democrats, they'll criticize him. But what I do is I oppose policies. I criticize policies. And so my issue with Zoran Mamdani is that his socialist policy ideas are bad. The idea of government-run grocery stores, it's a bad idea. Trying to bring back socialism, okay? I mean, socialism has no place in America, but there are advocates, there are people who are trying to introduce socialism in American society. That can never be allowed to happen. That is wrong. And so we must reject that. So it's about rejecting ideas. It's about rejecting policy proposals. It's about rejecting political ideology. It's not about opposing a political figure for the sake of opposing that political figure. And so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to say this very clearly. I have criticized Zoran Mamdani, but now I must also give him a lot of credit for reaching across the political aisle. For reaching across the political aisle. I'm giving a lot of credit to Zoran Mamdani for reaching out to President Trump, for staying in communication with President Trump, for meeting with President Trump, for making the trip from New York to Washington, D.C. more than once to meet with President Trump and to show proper respect to the Commander-in-Chief. I was quite surprised when I found out that Mamdani would travel to DC to meet with President Trump, and this happened right after Mamdani won the mayoral election. So I'm talking about something that happened back in November, something that happened last year. Mamdani visited the White House to meet with Donald J. Trump back in November. So Mamdani at the time, this was in November, right after the election, so he was officially not sworn in as the mayor. So Mamdani did not wait to be sworn in, and he made the prompt decision to travel to DC to meet with President Trump as the mayor-elect of New York City. Very quick action, and I think it helped form a bond between Trump and Mamdani. It helped form a working relationship between Trump and Mamdani. My friends, you have to understand that we are all human beings. We are created by the same God. We are all human beings of flesh and blood. We are all human beings of flesh and blood created by the same God. And so we can have intense political, differences. We can have intense ideological differences. We can have different views, different opinions about governance and government structures and public institutions. We can have exactly opposite viewpoints, but that should not stop us from recognizing our basic humanity. We are human beings. We are supposed to talk to each other, get along with each other, and live in harmony. We must treat each other with respect. We must be nice to each other. And so we must be able to talk even when we disagree, even when the views are not aligned. We should be able to have a conversation. And so when Zoran Mamdani traveled to Washington, D.C. to meet with President Trump, and President Trump, what did he do? He also gave Zoran Mamdani a very nice welcome. And they had a very nice and interesting news conference from the Oval Office. This was back in November. And one might have thought that, oh, it's just a one-time meeting. Mamdani just got elected. This was like a publicity stunt. Mamdani goes to Washington, D.C., meets with Donald Trump. They do a joint news conference, and that's it. That's the end of story. People are just going back to their lives. Donald Trump's now going to be busy with, his presidency, and Mamdani is just going to be busy with his, new role in New York as the mayor, and that's pretty much it. It was just a one-time thing. There's not going to be any more continuation. If anyone thought that, now we know that the person would be wrong. No, it was not a one-time meeting. It was not a publicity stunt. It was not just, one time we appear in front of the camera, show bipartisanship, show that we're able to talk and have a conversation in spite of political difference. No, it was not just a one-time thing, because we found out that Zoran Mamdani traveled to Washington, D.C. again this month, February of 2026. We found out that the connection between these two leaders, Mamdani being the leader, the elected official, the mayor of New York City, and Donald Trump being the commander-in-chief of the entire country, we found out that the connection between these two leaders is one that is continuing. It is one where communication is taking place. It's not just a one-time meeting that happened. We learned that Zoran Mamdani visited the White House again to meet with President Trump in February of 2026. That's this month. And now he visited as the mayor, because during the first visit he was the mayor-elect, but now he visited as the mayor. So this connection between Donald Trump and Zoran Mamdani is growing. The connection, the communication is growing. And you know what? It's a good thing. It is a good thing. It is a good thing that a Democrat and a Republican They're trying to find common ground. They're trying to find areas of agreement. They're trying to talk to each other, get to know each other, and develop a working relationship. So let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. Let's say that Andrew Cuomo would win the mayoral election. Let's say the winner is Andrew Cuomo and not Zoran Mamdani. If Andrew Cuomo would have won, do you think, I'm going to ask you this, do you think that Andrew Cuomo would be open to the same kind of bipartisan connection with President Trump that Mamdani now has with our commander-in-chief? Do you think Andrew Cuomo would take that step of reaching out to the White House and setting up a meeting and to go and meet with Donald Trump while being mayor-elect, even before being sworn in? Do you think Andrew Cuomo would have done what Zoran Mamdani did? I don't think so. I don't think so. Kay Cooper is saying, I do not think so, Tassif. Thank you, Kay. Kay agrees with me. Kay agrees with me. Thank you. Thank you so much. Steve, thank you. So what we are seeing between Zoran Mamdani and Mamdani taking the steps to travel to DC, it's not Donald Trump going to New York, it's Mamdani going to DC to meet with Trump. Zoran Mamdani is showing proper respect. Being a Democrat, being this far left Democrat, which is what Mamdani is. He's a far left Democrat. But he understands the reality. And he is showing proper respect to our commander-in-chief, the leader we elected, Donald Trump. If Andrew Cuomo would have been the mayor, I don't think this would have happened. I don't think Andrew Cuomo would probably be very proud, and he would probably feel empowered once again, like, oh, now I'm the mayor. And he would, it's my guess, we can never know what would have happened because it's like an alternate universe. We don't know what would have happened. It's all hypothetical, but I'm sharing with you my thoughts. I think, and only God knows if I'm right or wrong, but I think Andrew Cuomo would not take this kind of step to develop a bipartisan connection with Donald Trump. Andrew Cuomo wouldn't have done this if he would have been the mayor. But Mamdani, he is doing the right things by respecting the office of the US president and by seeking to form a strong bond with President Trump. Mamdani is trying to find areas of agreement so that he and President Trump can work together on issues. There are issues that they will disagree on. There are issues where Donald Trump and Zoran Mamdani will have completely different viewpoints. But then again, there may be issues, there may be areas where they may be able to work together. Okay? Out of maybe 100 issues, if they can agree on 10 things, then let's focus on those 10 things. Let's focus on those areas, those issues where Zoran Mamdani and Donald Trump can work together. And in this case, I think we're seeing housing. Housing appears to be that issue where Mamdani and Donald Trump can work together. Mamdani understands that there is need for more housing in New York City. Housing is extremely expensive in New York. I mean, those who live in New York City, you probably know, I don't have to tell you that, but people spend a lot of money to get really small apartments, really like very small apartments with like low square footage. I mean, you could get like a tiny studio apartment for, maybe thousands of dollars a month. So in rent. And so Mamdani understands that housing is an urgent need. And housing is not something that you can get overnight. I mean, there's no switch that you flip. There's no button that you push and oh, now you got new housing, 1,000 extra units. No, it takes time, it takes planning. There's a lot of red tape, the zoning and the permit and the planning and the building and the construction. And I mean, if you start planning now, it's going to be years before you see new housing, but you got to start now. And you have to find ways to expedite the process while maintaining safety. Okay, whenever something is being built, a structure is being constructed, a house or condos or apartments, takes time. You have to ensure safety. You can't just build. I mean, it's not like it's not Lego. You're building actual houses and buildings, so you have to make sure that the structures are strong and that there are the safety steps in place. So Mamdani understands that housing is a desperate need. It's an urgent need. And Donald Trump, being a real estate guy, a real estate businessman, that's what he did. He's, spent most of his life doing real estate. He understands that New York needs more housing. In fact, Donald Trump understands that there is need for housing nationally. Donald Trump is trying to promote homeownership. Donald Trump is trying to make homeownership affordable because Trump understands that there are many people and many young professionals who are working hard, trying to earn a paycheck, trying to, realize the American dream and still cannot become a homeowner because the interest rate is high, because homes are expensive, there's a lot of demand and not enough inventory. Trump understands that. So he also wants to do whatever he can to make homeownership possible for the American people, those who are not homeowners yet. So anyway, coming back to New York City needs a lot of housing options. And so this is an area where Donald Trump and Zoran Mamdani can work together. Okay. By the way, do you agree with the things I'm saying, my friends? Share with me your thoughts. You can just say toss if agree, or you can say toss if I don't agree. I don't agree. I think you're wrong, toss. Go ahead. Whatever your thoughts are, share those in the live chat. Okay. So I'm very happy, and I think that other Democrats should learn something from Zoran Mamdani. I mean, do you think that AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, do you think that AOC would ever reach out to the White House and say, I want to meet with President Trump. I want to find areas of agreement. I want to see what kind of issues we can work on together in a bipartisan fashion. Do you think that AOC would do that? Reach out to President Trump for a meeting? Do you think that guy in Chicago, what's his name? The guy in Chicago, the absolutely horrible mayor, like a failed mayor, a guy who understands nothing about governance, a guy who understands nothing about running a city. You know who I'm talking about, right? The guy in Chicago, what's his name? I know his name. I know his name, but I want you to tell me what his name is. The guy, Brandon Johnson. Brandon Johnson. Everyone knows Brandon Johnson. You talk about a failed mayor. You talk about Brandon Johnson. So, do you think that Brandon Johnson would ever reach out to the White House and try to find common ground? Would he ever work on developing a bipartisan relationship with the White House as Mamdani has done, as Mamdani is doing? Do you think Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson would ever take the kind of steps that Mamdani has taken? Go ahead. Let me know your thoughts. I don't think Brandon Johnson, the Chicago mayor, one of the worst mayors in the United States, one of the worst mayors in the United States, Brandon Johnson, I don't think he would ever do what Mamdani is doing, which is trying to find bipartisan solutions. Listen, my focus, my friends, my focus is on the truth. I want to share the truth. I want to share accurate information. I want to express to you what I truly believe. And I believe that in spite of differences in political opinions, we have to give credit to New York City Mayor Zoran Mamdani for showing respect to President Donald J. Trump, for reaching out to President Trump to seek assistance. And President Trump also values this working relationship. President Trump has been very nice to Zoran Mamdani. President Trump has also said that Mamdani is a nice guy. And I truly appreciate the fact that we are seeing this development of a bipartisan relationship, a working relationship between a mayor and a president. So a Democrat mayor, a Republican president, finding areas of agreement so that they can work together, so that they can serve the people together in spite of the differences. If you find that you can agree on 10% of the things, it doesn't change the fact that you still disagree 90% of the time with each other. Okay? And no one's asking anyone to change those positions, but if you can agree on 10% of the issues, and I'm just, throwing a number out there, 10%, let's focus on that 10%. Let's do something so that the people of New York can say, I am happy to see Zoran Mamdani, the mayor of New York City, and President Trump working together. This is what we want to see. This is the kind of attitude we need in political figures. Let's work together. Let's find common ground. And President Trump, honestly, he has always tried to work in a bipartisan fashion. He has always tried, and he still does so. He always tries to find bipartisan solutions. By the way, my friends, tell me, do you agree with what I said? Do you agree with what I said? Let me know. Kay Cooper says Trump is brilliant. Absolutely, Kay. Absolutely. Kay Cooper says, I agree, Tassif. Thank you, Kay. And there are others who are in agreement. There are others who are not in agreement. That's all right. That's all right. My friends, I really hope that we see more bipartisanship. I think this country desperately wants to see more bipartisanship, finding common ground, finding the areas of agreement, making sure that elected officials, public officials, are working together to serve the people of this country. And really, the Trump-Mamdani meetings are giving people hope. Now, I will say that I still disagree. I still disagree, and I will, and I always will disagree with many of Mamdani's policies and proposals. Okay, like um, his support for socialism. Socialism is bad. It is dangerous. We must reject socialism. So when Mamdani is supporting socialism, I absolutely reject that. I oppose that viewpoint. But I'm happy to see Mamdani making, um, you know, um, um, Mamdani reaching out to President Trump to work together. So, that's why I say you can disagree with someone 90% of the time, but if you see 10% of things that are, worth acknowledging and praising, let's do that. So I think this working relationship between Donald Trump and Zoran Mamdani, this can truly set an excellent example for others to follow. I do believe that very strongly. My friends, share with me your thoughts. Share with me your thoughts. Do you have questions that you want to ask me? If you have questions, please go ahead and ask questions. And also, my friends, I just want to highlight one thing. If you have not subscribed yet, please subscribe to stay connected. Please subscribe to stay connected. All right, ask me questions. Go ahead. All right. We are at the 47-minute mark. Go ahead, ask questions. I'll see if I can answer. Let's focus on questions pertaining to what we discussed today. Like I said, there are so many other things we could be talking about, but we're focusing on the topic that we have today. And I'll be doing more live streams to discuss other issues. All right. If you have no questions, I'm going to wrap up this live stream. And someone's saying that was strange. What was strange? Lawrence says, love your content. Thank you, Lawrence. Lawrence says, great channel, Tassif. Thank you, Lawrence. Okay. All right, my friends, let's wrap up this live stream now. Thank you so very much. Kay Cooper says, thank you for today's live stream. Thank you, Kay. Thanks to you, Kay. Thanks to you, Lawrence. And thanks to you, all our friends, for continuing to support this channel. Thanks to you. Thanks to you, because it's because of you that I get the encouragement and I get the energy to do these live streams. Okay. Dolly is here. Dolly, is that you? Dolly? Thank you, Dolly. Thanks so very much. Salerno, thank you, Salerno. Appreciate it. All right. All right. Okay. So I'm going to end this live stream now. Hope to be back again with more videos and more live stream very soon. Thank you, my friends. May God bless you all. May God bless President Donald J. Trump. May God bless the Trump administration. May God bless the Republicans in Washington. May God bless the United States of America. May God bless our U.S. allies. And may God bless freedom-loving people all over the world. Thank you so very much, my friends. I'm going to be back again very soon. Thank you.